Okay, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk. And tonight we have our political leader, Dr. Thomson Fontaine, with us, and yours truly, the Public Relations Officer of the United Workers' Party, Glenroy Social Coffee. We will be cruising with you for the next hour and to inform you accordingly with the respective issues at hand. Today is already the 22nd day of December 2025. And as you know, we are narrowing down on December. December is soon to come to a closure, and Christmas is just 3 days away. So we want to say to you, season's greetings, and to all persons, Dominicans, both here and abroad, and to those who have been listening to our executive members, season's greetings to our supporters, and on and so on, to all Dominicans. Tonight, is normal. I mean, Doc, you know, this time around, this Christmas time, and I don't think many people are feeling the actually what this year's Christmas will bring for them. In fact, I've been interacting with many Dominicans, and the talk is I have not seen Christmas yet, and it is just 3 days away. It seems that Christmas will never bring value this year to a number of persons. What do you have to say about that? Knowing someone like you on the ground every day and on a daily basis, you interact with ordinary Dominicans. What are you saying?
Well, so a very good evening to you and to our many listeners. Yeah, the Christmas spirit is is not there in the sense that you don't feel it. When Christmas is in the air, there's a vibe that goes with it. And you see it on people's faces. You see it in the preparation that they undertake. You see it in the way they greet you. But this year, you get the sense it's not there. I'm not even hearing the Christmas, not the carols, but the Christmas songs. I'm not even hearing those. Normally, you would hear those being played all over the place. Dashing through the snow and jingle bells and Silent Night and so on. None of
Yeah.
that. It's really sad because I remember how it used to be, and on top of that, people are telling you Christmas Saint Laurent. That is the biggest the biggest cry now. No money, Saint Laurent, for this Christmas because things are necessarily very difficult in this country. And there's also a feeling of gloom as well over the nation because persons are learning that they may not be able to enter into the United States. Persons are learning that it may be difficult for them to travel, to see family, and to even study. And we have, lots and lots of young people who have been dreaming to probably finish state college and move on to further education in the U.S. That now seems a distant dream for them. So a lot that people have to be handling or dealing with during this Christmas, and it is rather unfortunate. It's rather unfortunate because you get the sense that the vibe is just not there. It's not.
Oh, yes, certainly. And for those who traditionally, greet us with Christmas lights to let Christmas look like something in some respects, I have communicated with a few of them and they said, look, this time around, the cost will over the cost won't be more than the benefits they get from that. So they prefer not exhibit lights this year because they normally have a high cost at the end of the exercise. And so the amount of monies that they normally allocate for this activity, it is below budget and they just will not able to do it. But tonight, as we, sit with you and interact, we will be exploring certain areas of interest as we have realized, and also too, we have added another dimension to our program whereby you can call the number you see on the screen, 245-2858, as a WhatsApp number, and we will project you through the audio so that people can hear your voice with respect to your contributions and your participation generally. So besides just texting us and we can read your message, you could call directly to this number, 245-767. Remember the code, 767-245-2858. And you can actually interact live with us through this number. And so, Doc, in recent times, we've seen the slate of murders in our country has not been reduced. In fact, we are on a trajectory of a high, and the recent um, murder that took place in the cottage area was something that shocked the nation very much. So, a bypass shooting where you had two persons resulted in their death and a young man nursing serious injuries and was at the hospital. I don't know if he still is. And to the effect of that, the United Workers' Party Team Dominica has issued a press statement with respect to the state of violence and the concerns that we've had with with these things going on. And in recent times too, as well, you heard of the Dibwash saga, where we had, the intention for copper mining taking place. And again, we have taken a position where, as United Workers' Party Team Dominica, led by Dr. Thomson Fontaine, has again written to the government asking for a total halt of this program. And even if they are halted for some time, we hear about some halting, but we hope that this will be permanent and not just temporary for review, because this has implications for our environment. And recently, we see where the government of Dominica and Antigua came under pressure by the US when you had that proclamation read, where visa impositions were placed on these two countries. And instead, the government come clean with us in Dominica to tell us what it is like that is really happening. They rather play political semantics and pretended as if that they communicated with the US government. He and the leader of the Labour Party in Antigua and Barbuda, and trying to influence some kind of outcome from it. So, Doc, I have just preempted three highlights and your whole take on it, because as we speak too, we see that today the 26th, and on the 26th coming of Boxing Day, actually, there will be even more restrictions with respect to persons holding green cards and their frequent, in and out of the United States of America. Before they had a 6 months period to move up and down, it is now go down to 90 days, which come down to three months. So all of this is unfolding just after we heard the Prime Minister of Dominica and Antigua trying to boast as if they had entered a negotiation with the United States government. I don't understand how it is that the pronouncement of the proclamation was made a day sometime last week, and 2 days after, you heard the Prime Minister of Dominica come and say that as if that they were in negotiation with Washington and there was a change of heart. I don't know how possible that could be. In fact, look at this getting even more interesting. So, Doc, I have highlighted three areas of concern. Can you give the public an update as to the crime situation and the letter concerning the halting of operations at Debwash, and subsequently the recent unfolding of this proclamation and even more serious matters that coming out as a result of the green card holders coming from Dominica and Antigua, and more so in other countries that were named. So can you just navigate us through all of this? Thank you, sir.
Yes, so it has been a very busy week, for us in terms of the putting out the press statements, and we also had a very successful press conference on Thursday morning where we were able to give some more details on some of these critical issues. But one of the things that are really concerning to us is the level of crime and violence, not only the level, but the very high level of crime and violence in Dominica. I was very pleased that earlier today, I was able to speak to the Dominican public on DBS radio. I had a very good patois discussion with Miss Fontaine on Experience Creole, and we discussed this issue of violence, and also she wanted to find out some more information about the suggestion that we gave to the government, because in this press statement that we have, that you can now see on your screen, we called for a bipartisan approach to the government dealing with this issue. But we also made it more explicit in our press conference, where we call on government, where we told government that we were willing to work with them on this issue. We believe that this is a matter that is bigger than this government. This is a matter that will call for decided action on behalf of all those informed. And the United Workers' Party, as the largest opposition party in this country, we certainly have a part to play and a role to play. And so, what we've done is we have offered our services to the Prime Minister. We have made a suggestion for a bipartisan committee to be formed to examine this issue of violence in Dominica. We have lost 22 young people over violence in this year. 22. That's
Wow.
almost double the amounts that we had last year. And
Wow.
one person that is already too many. And we've had 22. I mean, think about it. That's an average of 2 persons every month being killed in Dominica. So this is a crisis situation. And you get the sense that the government is not paying enough attention to it. We are in a crisis. Because when 2 young people are taken from us every single month, the question then becomes, where is it going to end? When is it going to stop? When are our parents going to stop burying their children? Because that's what each time, every person that dies, they have family. Most likely they have parents who are still alive. Parents have to bury their loved children. Siblings have to be crying over the deaths that could be completely avoided. One of the things that we also highlighted in our statement is the seeming inaction of the police. You know, our police have been very good in prosecuting the opposition. They are present when you call a protest action. They are dressed up. They're ready to go to war, all right, against the opposition. Yet for the single most important reason why they exist, which is for the safety and the protection of the Dominican public, they're usually absent. And that is extremely worrisome. And some examples of this is we have seen where, for example, the United States government or the United States law enforcement officials have given specific information to the Dominica police about the arrival in this country of guns in barrels. And the police just go and pick up the barrel at the port as if it was assigned to them. without arresting the persons who it was assigned to, without investigating where those barrels were destined to. And it has happened at least 2 or 3 times in the recent past. And more recently, we've had guns and ammunition being shipped in cans of stuff. And the police in the US, they arrested this individual in the United States with the expectation that our authorities they would make some arrests locally. Nothing, absolutely nothing. So we believe all of that is adding to the violence. All of that is adding to the prevalence of guns because that's what they intercepted. We don't know how much has gotten through, but one thing is clear. Practically every single murder of the 22 has been big as a result of guns. And the last one, just a couple of weeks ago, it was a double murder, a double drive-by shooting. That is things we only read about in newspaper reports. These are things that we never imagined would be happening here in Dominica, but it has reached us. You know, the violence unchecked. We also saw recently the publishing of a hit list. Individuals that literally published the name of some 12 persons who they said must be killed in this country. You know, and you wonder what kind of proactive work has been done by the police. I mean, I don't want to be on the back of the police, but by all means, get up and do your work. You know, these are very small societies. People talk, people know, you know, what's going on, but you have to do the intelligence, you have to do the hard work, and you need to be in front of all of this. And we get the sense that this is not happening. So we've really been calling on the government now. We think enough is enough. We should not face 2026 in the same mode, losing so many of our young people. So we have offered the services of persons that we have access to within our group. We have professionals, psychologists, mental health experts that we can make available to be part of this panel. I don't want it to be a panel of politicians. I want it to be a panel of professionals who can put their minds together and come up with positive recommendations that the government can implement to deal with that. So that is one. The second critical important thing linked to this violence that we are seeing is the prevalence of the mentally deranged, and in particular, young men. We have been on the ground this past year in particularly every part of this country, and in every single village that you go to, you see individuals, young people who are out of their minds. You see mental illness is there's an alarming rise in the mental illness in Dominica. I'm told that the ward at the hospital is overflowing with young men, and that is in every single village. The mentally deranged people are there, and you get the sense that not enough is being done. So what we're saying to the government and what we have said in this press release is that in the interim, while we work to put together this bipartisan committee, like a blue ribbon committee that will look into the issue of gun violence in Dominica, look into the issue of youth crime on, youth and youth violence. While we form that committee, the government should put some resources into addressing this mental health issue, because that's very important. We are losing too many of our young people either through mental health problems or through this violence, and so that needs to be checked. And the question is, where is our government in all of this? Where is our government? It seems to me, as we used to say, to use local parlance, is only any opposition they are force.
That is correct.
you know, um, you get the sense that this government is not doing what it is supposed to do, which is to protect the public. There's very little protection for the public. There was very little protection for the young men, irrespective of what these young persons who died would have done. We have a justice system. They should be going through that justice system. They should not be losing their lives on the streets. They should not be shut down like dogs on the street. That is what is happening now, over and over and over again. We need to put a stop to this. We can put a stop to this, but it will call for firm, decisive action on the part of the government. And that is what we are asking. We wanted to draw the attention of the public to this issue because it is not going away. Like you said, there are lots of grievances. We are told that a lot of some of those killings are tit for tat. Information is being spread all over the place. So there must be a way that the police in Dominica can get access to this information, can know beforehand who are the guilty parties in this or who are the persons intending to commit those kinds of crimes. And so we need to deal with this, bro. Absolutely. It is very, very disheartening that we have this going on in Dominica, and more needs to be done, and it needs to be done now.
Yes, and I'm happy that we have been proactive, and we could see, based on the proactiveness, the steps that are taken to actually meet the goal, to write to government and to say, look, let us take a bipartisan approach to this thing. There's nothing about politics, it's about society that has been affected, and it affects all of us. And so I think that's a good call. So right now is the government to actually, accept or reject this proposal, because they can't solve the problems all by themselves. And they need all and sundry. And it is better when you have a united, governance approach to things, that you're going to get things done. So this is a good move, keeping proactive and so forth. But as we on this, with respect to our men fighting each other, I think we can song this call that all men do not have to solve their issues through violence. There are better ways that they can resolve their issues, and they do not have to take guns at each other or knives at each other. There's a common ground in which you do things, because when one life is lost, it's not one family that is grieving. The victim family is grieving, and the perpetrator family is grieving. And so it leaves a society of grievances. And so we do not at all condone these kind of behaviors. And so we say to our young men that find a common way to solve this problem. You can work with your brothers and your sisters to work and to resolve family issues, to work and to resolve your social issues, given the economy doesn't allow for such, direction where men can focus on work to survive. Because the state of the economy and the governance of this country is really not going in the direction to actually, let our young men have a choice in life. It appears to me Yes, they are congregated in groups all around the island, ganging up. Maybe that's not the best thing. But if there were alternatives, I mean, economic alternatives, you know, planned towards them, if government policies were directing a day having to be involved in nation building, probably we could have seen a different, approach towards how they relate to the society. But by and large, there is an avenue and a better way that they can solve their issues. So, Doc, I want to commend you on the good work you and your team for doing and to at least getting the government to hear your voice on this. So we have already settled the dust on this. I know you would like to say something on the DBOS issue. What do you have to say? Because I know that you again and your team, we have actually, made a press statement with respect to the whole concern of the operations at DBOS and the environmental impacts or the negative impacts that this operation is having on the environment and to the neighboring communities. So I think to the Dominican people probably deserve probably sort of around. I mean, let's explain to us what transpired and what you believe is the right thing to do.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get back the press release that we put out. So bear with me on this, but we also are very much concerned about the if you like just the just the really terrible way in which this government has gone about, doing what they've done to Debwash. It is really very, very sad to see, if you like, this naked aggression. And that's how I think about it,
Oh,
because
that's true. That's a good
the
term.
it is important that we understand that we must protect our environment. If we destroy our environment, we destroy ourselves in the process. And when you see government behaving as recklessly as this government is behaving, then that is cause for concern. And we are concerned because we've seen the pictures of the wash. We've seen the terrible environmental impact it's having. In fact, just on Sunday, as I was on my way to Wesley, there were actually about three coastal loads of buses, tourist buses that were going to that very same river there in Concord, because people that they have a tubing operation there where
Yes,
tourists
sir.
come and they enjoy the river. Now, all of that is in jeopardy. All of that could end tomorrow because of the actions that are taking place in the Wash. But worse is the destruction of a significant portion of the rainforest of Dominica that keeps our fragile ecosystem together, that generates the rain that waters our agriculture, that generates the rain that fills our rivers, that generates the rain that goes down into the ground and comes back up as source water that we can enjoy in Dominica. So that focus by the government on destroying our natural habitat is really concerning. And then the Prime Minister, when asked about it in a press conference on Monday, he indicated that that was the only place in the country where those kinds of stones could be obtained. And I found that really odd, because I know for a fact that stones that are quarried from the quarries in Layu and in Point Michel and in Collioure and so on, these are making their way to the French islands in particular. And in fact, that is not verified, but someone told me that the Orly airport, which is under construction right now in France, they are using stones from Dominica in the construction of this airport. So the fact to tell the Dominican public that the only place you can get stones is in that area, I think it's false. It's false. It's incorrect, and we continue to call on the government to end this illegal. So that is what this thing was all about. Is a clarion call on the government of Dominica, in the best interest of sustaining our country as a nature isle of the world, to immediately cease. It's not too late. It's not too late. They need to stop. And of course, we at in a previous broadcast we talked about the presence of known deposits of copper in that area. And the question, obviously, that any right-thinking person will ask is whether or not these quarrying operations have anything to do, has more to do with the going after our resource, which is the copper, as against quarrying. Because from the pictures that has been made public, the pictures that we've seen, you rarely see exposed dirt. If you take a picture of, say, Collio, where they're doing the quarrying, all you see is tarish, or if you go to Les Point in Mau, all you see is tarish, right? You take a picture of the marsh and all you see is dirt being
That's
moved.
right.
So the question then becomes, is that really a genuine quarrying operation to get stones for the airport? I have been behind those huge dumpers that go up and down the road, and all I see is dirt. They're moving literally tons and tons and tons of dirt, and not, I repeat, they are not, at least for now, they are not removing stones from this quarry. So the obvious question that any right-thinking Dominican needs to ask is, what exactly is going on? And so we appeal into the government again to end this illegal operation, one. And secondly, they have not received physical planning permission. So if you or myself, if we try to put up a structure anywhere across Dominica, you don't know how they find it out, but they're gonna come after you.
That's correct.
They're gonna send you lawyer paper. They're gonna tell you desist immediately because you don't have planning permission. Okay, so I think you have your first caller.
No, I look at this call and it's not related to this program.
Okay.
So I hope people who are listening can call 767-245-2858 and interact with us accordingly. And there'll always be a mix because the number that is being used obviously is my number, and then
It's a private number, yes, that's
yeah,
understandable.
the private
But
number is, yeah.
persons were asking, and we wanted to make this a little
Yes,
bit
yes, yes,
more
I know. And that's why
interactive.
we're saying yes, they can
So,
call
yes,
767-245-2858, or you could just post your written questions and suggestions and we'll have them read. So you were saying, Doc, in terms of what you were
yes. So
seeing,
in terms of what we want to see there, is we want to see the halting, total and complete halting of quarrying operations. We believe that it is detrimental to our country, and we should not be destroying our country in the name of progress. All right, and the government of Dominica should pay closer attention to maintaining this, because it's really a fragile balance. When you start to dig out trees and remove the rainforest that is supposed to be providing that cover, that which, by the way, is protected by legislation going back to 1952. These are protected areas, and yet we are seeing those reckless operations ongoing. We continue to call on the government of Dominica to do the right thing and to immediately halt the operations.
yes, and that is very true. And as you were rightly saying, is that we have to take into consideration what is actually happening to this pristine environment that we so concerned about. And I don't know how much digging they would like to do to get stones. And as you rightly said, myself, in my own observation, I've only seen the movement of soil or dirt. And so it doesn't seem evident that the area has stones as they thought. But more importantly, remember too, it is part of our Central Forest Reserve, and also to even now impacting on our water catchment areas, whereby the more you excavate and you remove trees, there is the likelihood that you deplete the water resource. And so all of this preservation of our water resource is very important. And we are telling people with the government that, look, in no uncertain terms, that you should continue this project, because it is something that we have to treasure. This area is bonding on the Central Forest Reserve, and it is part of our whole, water catchment. And so do not trespass with this. And something too we must take into consideration. We have been awarded a title sometime in 1997 under the United Workers' Party, where Dominica was named a World Heritage Site. And all of these, mining and other activities were taken into consideration when this title was bestowed on the country. And so in our quest to doing things contrary to what establishes the title's right to have us have this title, I think it may well pose a withdrawal for us. And so we must really try to get it, right. And so this government must look at it as a serious, serious issue and don't look at it just as a domestic issue, but the world is looking at us and we do not want to lose our environmental rights and to actually preserve the title that we get. Because once we tarnish Dominica's good name, then it seems to me that it will no longer be called the Nature Island. Well, Doc, there's another issue that I believe you have been monitoring closely. And sometime last week, the United States government, put out a proclamation regarding visa restriction for a number of nations. But more importantly, Dominica and Antigua fell right into the category of nations that were highlighted. And it seems to me that there were concerns with respect to, what is the next move? What triggers the United States to do this? And because our government has not been clear with us, it appears that we still have many unanswered questions. And so we are still in this predicament where the government doesn't come clean with us to tell the nation and the citizens of Dominica what has triggered this sort of move. But as we always say in local parlance, there is no smoke without fire. And so I know something is up. Up to recently again, we've heard that the United States government has moved for December 26th to have those who hold U.S. green card to at least now have 3 months to move between the USA and other countries, and most likely probably may well have to abandon going overseas, and to prove that holding this green card puts them in a position to be loyal to the United States.
The green card, or the green card.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw something there. I mean, I listened to it on the 26th. That information can be verified, but
Yeah, I find it kind of odd because it was not certainly not part of the proclamation.
well, it wasn't part of the proclamation, but this is the recent thing that developing from this. I'm not saying the government of Dominica and the Antiguan government, they came out and they pretended to have resolved the issue with the US government. How can you draw attention to what is happening right now? Because every day something is coming out. And to me, we are not satisfied that our government has actually given the populace a fair understanding of what has transpired. Were they written to, not just about the proclamation? Were there reasons why we fell as a country being part of that kind of restriction? So can you just draw attention to what is likely unfolding around this whole proclamation?
Yeah, so we are living in very difficult times, and I can tell you that so already. Um, Panic has begun to set in Dominica. 6 months ago, exactly 6 months ago, the United States government issued a statement. The White House issued a statement, and that was in response to, in April of this year, we heard for the very first time in some very sensational reporting by some of the major newspapers in the United States, including the Washington Post and the New York Times, indicating that there were several countries on a list that the United States intended to take action against. And included on that list that came out in April was Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Antigua and Barbuda.
Yeah.
So these four countries were included in that list. And at the time, the United States indicated that these countries had 6 months, including the four countries that I mentioned who had a CBI program. They had 6 months in which to clean up their act, or else action will be taken against them. 6 months later, we got this proclamation that came out last Tuesday, and the proclamation was targeting only Dominica and Antigua. So mysteriously, two countries that were on that previous list disappeared from the list: St. Lucia and St. Kitts and
Thank you,
Nevis.
yeah.
Okay, and that begs the obvious question, why? But that's a different discussion. The focus that I want to bring is why is it that the government of Dominica did not see it fit to do something to prevent Tuesday? Because they were warned, they were told clearly, clean up your act or we will act. And so what we have is the proclamation. Now, when the proclamation came out on Tuesday, I immediately reached out to the US Embassy, and they explained very clearly to me that the proclamation, because my first question was, does that mean that there is a ban? It always says a partial ban. Does that
Sure.
mean that we're not with persons who currently hold green cards and visas
Visas.
whether they could travel to the United States? And the response was they actually gave me the fact sheet from the White House that stated very, very clearly that there were exceptions to the proclamation. So what the proclamation effectively said that because Dominica, and I'm just focusing on those, there are other countries, but just those two countries, because Dominica and Antigua and Barbuda were, they have this CBI program, but there's an issue of the residency criteria. Okay. There's also the issue of the vetting that takes place. And there were also more general concerns about potential for money laundering and so on out of those programs. But when they listed the actual reason that they gave, just I guess to save space or so, they focused on the residency criteria. And they said, well, these countries, they are basically giving persons passports without these persons being required to come to the islands. Now, Antigua, when they devised the program, they did have a 30-day residency requirement. Now, as to whether or not that is adhered to, that's a different story. But they did have a 30-day requirement. But obviously, the Americans felt that these 30 days was not sufficient. So we get this proclamation. We also get the exceptions to it, which is very clear that persons who have already in possession of visas will be able to enter the United States after January 1st. However, there will be no new issuing of visas, firstly, and any person who is on the list to go for an interview to receive a green card would also not be able to continue. What we did not see coming was what is happening today. How much is that what happened on Friday? Persons in the United States who still have the Dominica passport, but who had long before they had their ceremony lined up to receive their citizenship formally from the United States and be able to possess a US passports. They are turning up to those passport centers and they're being told that their interviews are canceled. So we did not see that coming based on what was released. So it is very clear that not only is the US targeting passport holders, Dominican passport holders with green cards, but they're targeting those with visas. But now they're targeting those within the United States who are already in the pipeline to receive their passports. So these persons have been told that they have no information as to when that will be reversed, just that for today or yesterday or Friday, their ceremony is off. So that's a very serious problem. But I think adding to the confusion is or was when the Prime Minister in a late night release or breaking news on GIS and DBS indicated that he was in discussions with the United States government, and following those discussions, they have agreed to suspend the proclamation.
Oh my God.
So that raised a lot of consternation, and people were asking, well, is it really the proclamation? Because what he said, and then he went on to qualify to say that he has been informed that Persons with visas have nothing to worry about. If you already have a visa, you'll be allowed to go to the United States. You have nothing to worry about. But that was already in the proclamation. So it
Established,
seems to me the
exactly.
proclamation has not been suspended, but there are exceptions to the proclamation within the proclamation itself. And those exceptions included for persons already in possession of visas. So I think that's where the problem is. So because of that confusion, I can inform the Dominican public that given the seriousness of the situation, given the potential for that to even get worse, because we already seen on the trajectory at which it is going, the fact that you're denying Dominican citizenship, they've been denied. There's no question about it. Even before the date when it should start, we're talking about 2 or 3 weeks before the 1st of January, and people have been denied. So that already sends a very powerful signal as to where that is headed. And so, in light of this, we have taken the decision that I will travel to the United States very, very early in 2026 to meet to Washington. I'll travel to Washington to meet with the U.S. authorities to have some discussions around this issue. I think it's very important, not only for clarity, but also to find out if there is anything that can be done to reverse this. Okay, I get the impression that our government is more concerned about its image, it's more concerned about damage control than it is about dealing with this issue. That is something where we need leadership, okay, because it has the potential to negatively impact thousands of Dominicans who are in the pipeline for whether it's green card or pipeline for citizenship, literally hundreds of students who are thinking of going to the United States to pursue their education. It has implications for business persons. There are also implications for persons who would be seeking medical attention in the United States, and the list goes on. Individuals who want to go to the United States to visit family, whether it's for a reunion or whether it's for graduation or birthday celebration, or just family being together, all of that will be impacted. So this has the potential for deteriorating because the US has been very clear in its proclamation that the government of Dominica has 6 months to do something about this. Now, mark you, and that's why from the beginning I went back to how it all started. 6 months ago, the White House informed the government of Dominica that this was coming, that this was going to happen, that they had to do something. And that's the reason why in the very first reaction of the prime minister, he was faking surprise. He never knew
Yes.
about it, but he was warned 6 months ago.
Oh, yeah.
It was widely reported on all news outlets because for the first time in June, the United States government and the White House were confirming the reports that had come out in the newspapers in April. So that was all over because finally it was agreed that was going to happen. But we see the government trying to weave and dodge. So in light of this, I think the Dominican public needs clear answers. And so we will be doing that very early in January to be in Washington. It's cold today. It's cold, very cold in Washington in January, but it's worth it's worth sitting down with the authorities there and seeing what can be done because we absolutely have to get out of this. I mean, this is going to be simply disastrous for Dominica because I will tell you one of the unintended consequences, one of the that are likely is if, God forbid, that this thing moves to the other level, which is a
On the
complete
level, yes.
ban,
Permanent, yeah.
a permanent complete ban on Dominica, which would now impact green card holders as well. If we are to move to that, then it's going to have a, a significant impact on Dominica's economy. And let me explain where those impacts are going to be. Number one, the sale or the relevance or the importance of the passports will diminish. Okay, so when you consider that first the Canadians, then the British, now the Norwegians, uh, they expelled, they actually went all across the country and expelled persons who had Dominica passports, who had entered the country with Dominican passports. There was at least one individual who was in Norway for the past 2 months, and they found where he was and told him he had until the next day to leave. They did not even leave it up to him. They took him, brought him to a hotel, and says, you need to find a ticket and leave next day. That is how serious the actions were by the Norwegian authorities. It's raising some concerns within the Schengen region, because for those of you who've traveled through Europe, you have about 13 or so countries where once you enter into one of those countries, you enter into the entire region. So if you enter, for example, into Norway, you can now go to the other countries without having a visa. Okay, so for us, for example, Dominica, we now have visa-free access to the Schengen area. So it was the case that before Dominica passport, we could go into any of those countries, no questions asked. Okay, I've done it. I've been to Norway. I've been to most of the European countries there, and it was very, very easy with a Dominica passport. Now, Norway has taken action, and Norway is not part of the European Union. So because they're not part of the European Union, they have used their own legislation to say, and the reason that the Norwegians gave is similar to what the Americans gave, and that is that the passports have been issued without any due diligence, and
Diligence.
also the residency criteria is not being observed. So according to their legislation, the those with Dominica passports have not obtained those passports legally. And because they have not obtained those passports legally, they're not allowed into Norway. So whereas they were allowed previously, now they're not. And every single one who was in Norway on a Dominica passport has been expelled. So those three countries, now we have the United States imposing that action, making it more difficult for holders of Dominican passports to get visas to go into the United States. In fact, that is no longer possible. I remember being at the U.S. Embassy a few times and seeing, different persons, different white, certainly not natural born Dominicans with Dominican passports coming there for the visas. I've seen it with my own eyes. So these individuals now will not be able to get the visas. Now, all of that is going to put a pressure on the validity of the Dominica passport. So if you have a choice now to get a St. Kitts, and bear in mind, all the prices now are the same. There was legislation where the countries agreed that they would charge the same. There would not be any competition on pricing. So you're going to have the competition now based on where that passport can take you. St. Kitts is not bad from the United States. So it is not bad from the United Kingdom. It's not bad from Canada. It is not bad from Norway. So already St. Kitts has an edge over Dominica. So it is very likely that the revenues from the CBI program is going to decline significantly. Now, why is that important? That is important because as of now, 60% of the recurrent, in other words, 60% of the current spending, we call it recurrent expenditure, that is expenditure that's come up particularly every month. Payment of teachers' salaries, payment of police officers, payment to the NAP program, purchase of health of equipment, purchase of medicines, all of these recurrent, the payment of government buildings, of rent and electricity and so on, and water, all of those, 60% of that financing comes from the CBI program. So if we have, as we expect, this latest action to cause a lack of resources, then we're going to have a major impact upon the budget of Dominica. And the obvious question becomes, where is the government of Dominica going to get that shortfall from? How are they going to be able to get new resources to make up that shortfall? So we are going to have a very serious impact on the economy of Dominica as a result. The other thing to note is that once it gets out there that there is a travel ban on Dominica, the perception is that. So if you're reading the newspapers, you see a travel ban on Dominica, you will just assume, and a lot of people have assumed that the travel ban exists on Americans coming into the country. Okay, because it just says a travel ban. When you're an American citizen looking to go somewhere on holidays, and when you click on Dominica, you see, oh, there's a travel ban on Dominica. The first thing that comes to mind is that you're not able to travel to Dominica, even if that's not the case. That will have some negative impacts on tourism. And if we move to a complete ban, tourism levels are going to drop. As of now, the majority of tourists coming into Dominica and the tourists that spend the most in Dominica are from the United States. That's going to have a major impact upon our tourism sector. And that's another serious, serious consequence that we can expect from this. So and that's why I said that everything must be done to try to reverse this. There is too much at stake. At stake is the survivability and the economic viability of our country. At stake is if you like, persons in the trying to come into Dominica thinking that this is a rogue country and they should not support us. Right? So we are in, I'm afraid, for a very difficult time, and every effort must be made to see how this can be reversed. And I believe that our travel into Washington in January will help provide some answers to the Dominican public, and will also help provide some truthfulness to all this. Because right now, quite frankly, I cannot trust the government statement. I cannot trust the Prime Minister, firstly, for expressing surprise that as if he never knew that was coming, and secondly, for giving really false information to the Dominican public.
Yes,
Yes.
Doc, and let me just say you are correct. This is the same government that said, if it not passport what? But when they fail to exercise due diligence to issue our passport, and when countries take action against them and give them, a stipulated time frame to get compliant, they themselves they do not do it. They do not adhere to the compliance criteria, and so let time expire on them. So you could see this is a government that is not interested in the well-being of people, and as a result, when the hammer comes down, the important thing, the hammer doesn't come down on the government officials, it comes down on ordinary Dominicans who have found a way to make a living, whose families have filed them into the United States, whose persons want to go and visit their relative in case they're sick, they have to attend a wedding, to go to school. The hammer comes down on Dominicans, and that is the problem. So I love that proactiveness of the United Workers' Party, Team Dominica, and your statement that you will be in Washington sometime early next year to get the truth and report to Dominicans, because this government cannot be trusted. And knowing that you have had and you're accustomed to diplomatic missions around the world, you have done extensive work in this regard. We trust that your mission to Washington will bring enough good information for us, and we will actually digest it. But
You know,
somebody
you,
said,
you, you know, and also just before you get to the comment, I think it's very important that we have a dialogue with the U.S. government to impress upon them how serious this thing is. It's not just a question of people not being able to travel to your country, but to explain the seriousness of the situation as far as the economic backlash and the impact on the country. I mean, that case must be made, and making a very clear case to the US authorities for removal of this, and if it's further exemptions and so on. Because what is really worrisome to me, what is really, really worrisome is the citizenship part that is now being denied. Even that is being denied. That is very serious.
well, I'm serious. That is very serious.
Because
Very, very.
you're talking about individuals who have probably lived in the US for over 10 years, probably 10, 15 years,
15, even 20 years.
who have done everything, who have not committed crimes in the United States, who have built their lives there, who have raised their families in the US, who have been legal in the United States for many years with a green card, and now transiting into getting the passport, and they're not able to get it. That's a very serious problem. That's a very serious escalation. And it tells me that there is more to this than we have been told. There is more to this than we have been told. The fact that you are now targeting potential U.S. citizens. Obviously, they cannot touch those who already have the passports as
Of
citizens.
course.
But the fact that you were canceling even before, I can understand if the person had or the individuals had interviews, say in February of next year or March. But we're talking about December. The proclamation hasn't even yet taken effect, and yet they're turning people away. That tells you how seriously that they're taking this and how we should not sit on this. This has a potential to wreck our economy. It has a potential to severely damage our people, and just the human aspect of it, the familial, what I call familial relationships, in terms of being able to go see your family, visit your friends, go on a holiday, just these little things that makes it really, really distressing for a lot of people. And so we have to find a way out of this. It gives me absolutely no joy to find out that this has happened. It's extremely distressing for many, many people. Imagine so for persons who lined up for their green cards and they have appointments, so they were looking forward to their interviews, say January or February or March, because you normally do that a couple months or so in advance. And now they're being told all of that is off, And I am thinking about persons now. Imagine now you have a green card in the United States. You say you have been there 10 years. The green card is for 10 years, right? So you're deciding now you renew it probably for a year or 5 years. And just before it expires, you decide to go for your citizenship,
Citizenship. Yeah.
right? Now, what happens to you when your green card now expires? You cannot renew the green card, right? Because that option is not open. So it means that potentially, a number of Dominicans could be without legal status in the United States. Individuals who have been there for many, many years. So these are very worrying times. And these are questions that we don't have all the answers to. And that's why I believe it's important to engage in a serious dialogue with the US authorities. I don't think it is enough to just send a diplomatic note, as we're told was done by the Skerrit administration. It is not enough to pick up the phone and call. I think serious negotiations needs to be undertaken. Obviously, we are not going to negotiate on the part of the country. That's not our place.
That's our place. No, we
And
made it clear. That's
our,
going to have our
our,
own.
our place is as an opposition party to impress upon the U.S. authorities the serious implications that exist for us in Dominica, and to plead on behalf of our country. That's what we can do. It is a place of the government of Dominica to negotiate. They're the ones that got us in this mess. They're the ones that are better able to get us out of this mess, but it will call for decisive action. So let's see if this government is prepared to take the action that is required to get us out of the situation.
Yeah, and I'm happy you said that. And by no means, I myself, I'm feeling sorry for so many Dominicans who are up there and maybe going through this kind of trauma, because traumatizing, because, but again, Dominicans, I hope you learn from this, because in previous elections, you have come to put your mark and to ensure that this government remains. And today, see what is working against you, because they do not adhere to rules. They are not compliant. They are defiant. They do not care who speak to them. They just don't care. So it means that they are not concerned about your well-being. And so see where we are, see in what place we are. But I just hope that everything will be resolved. But the best way to resolve all of our country's problem, especially when you talk about non-adherence, this government has to go. Dominicans, we have to undo what we did. This is coming to that point. There's no way we are going to do this. And so we implore on you to take action against this government. This government
You
must
know,
go. You
yes,
know,
indeed. So, and I want to add my voice to that. And the fact of the matter is, all of that could be avoided. In 2009, as early as 2009, I was writing in the door. And if you go online now, if you just look up Ambassadors of Shame, or if you look up Citizenship by Investment Program, some of the top articles there, you will find going back to 2009, 2010, 11, 12. Okay, a lot of those articles I researched, I wrote about our various ambassadors, and one time I counted 15 ambassadors who had been given diplomatic passports, and the majority of those 15 were crooks and really serious criminals. I wrote about the I don't forget his name now. It's been so long. It's been 15 years. At the time, he was the most wanted fugitive from India, who had our Dominica passport. And the government of Dominica challenged me. And a few months after, a newspaper report came out from the New York Times, from the India Times, indicating that this person was in fact in had possession of the passport. But in 2009, whilst I was in Washington D.C. at the time, I was still at the IMF. I received a notice. I received a knock at my door, and when I opened, it was a bailiff from a lawyer's office in the United States. They had hired a high-priced lawyer in the U.S. to serve me with a how we call it, with a notification that I was being sued by Roosevelt Scarrett. And I had to quickly arrange to hire a lawyer. Initially, I hired Mr. Don Christopher at the time. That shows you how many years ago it was.
Yes,
I
yes.
hired Mr. Don Christopher as my lawyer, and later on, when he passed away, I hired Gildon Richards. And that particular case, or what they were suing me for, is I had made very strong statements. I'd written article after article about. Want to take this call?
No,
Okay.
it was
So so
unrelated. Yeah,
so maybe just put it aside a little bit
yeah,
now.
I will on
Yes,
that. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So yeah, so because of that, because I had written and I had indicated that there was no due diligence being conducted, because if there was due diligence being conducted, all of these criminals would not end up with our passports. So I made a very clear case. The government of Dominic, when Roosevelt Skerritt in the Roosevelt Skerritt versus Thomson Fontaine, when that suit was filed, they tried to ram it through the court system in Dominica. In fact, and I think it's important to give that backstory, because people think that we are just now talking about this, but that was 15 years ago, and they tried to ram this thing. They actually got how we call them, some not a moderator, but you have somebody that kind of handles these civilian cases. I can't remember how it's called now. Anyway, they got somebody, an individual from St. Lucia, who literally removed the most critical sections of the complaints I made. Because when I was sued by the prime minister, I had to respond. Okay, so
That's right.
responding to the prime minister, I had to indicate some sources that I had and so on, and making some specific requests to the government. So one of the requests, for example, that my lawyer made was that, well, if you're saying that these individuals are not crooks and criminals and they have never received Dominican passports, you need to furnish the entire list of those who have been furnished passports. Okay, this individual removed all of these. He took it off. We had to appeal that to the East Caribbean Court of Justice. And when we appealed to the East Caribbean Court of Justice, that was when we got some justice, because they said that this is of critical national interest, that panel of three judges, and they instructed that every single line that was removed from my defense be reinstated. And they
You're
did
in.
something very unusual. They actually told my lawyer that he can actually add to it, because by that time, a lot more stories had come out, a lot more evidence had come out. And they gave us the opportunity to add anything that we wanted to our response. That shows you how serious that part was. And then what happened? The case mysteriously disappeared.
Disappeared.
Disappeared from the court calendar.
They
It
had
was
no more interest.
just like that, it was gone. A case which we felt would have put the government on notice, although they were the ones suing us, but we would have been able to reveal in open court some of the sources and some of just what we are seeing today. So that was 15 years ago. This prime minister had every opportunity to do the right thing. He chose not to. And every single Dominican must put the blame on what is happening now squarely at the feet of the Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Scott. He was there in 2009. He was the one who sued me in 2009. He's the one who, I cannot say he's the one who made the case disappear. I have no proof of that. But given the fact that he was the person suing and then he never pursued it, I guess he had a part in whatever happened. It did not go out the normal way, so to speak. It just disappeared from the court's calendar. All right. And he was the person that was supposed to make those changes that would guarantee that Dominica was not seen as a threat to the international community, that the actions of the government was not seen as a threat. So that is what we have now. We have a country, Dominica, that is now viewed as a threat to international security to the point where every single Dominican is now being denied citizenship in the United States. That speaks volumes.
Yes, and so I know we went a little over time, but it was in the interest of the listening public to know the truth and nothing more than the truth. And so we continue to do so. But before we put on the curtains on this program, there are two comments that I would like to read. One says there, with our earlier discussion, this has nothing to do with stones. Which Dominican can be convinced that this is the only place to get stones? This is about the copper. Skerritt said that China will finish the airport. What he did not do is to tell us how we will pay China the cost of finishing the airport. And so another person said, season greetings to all the Patriots family, UWP, or hope for a better Dominica. Educators, don't bribe us like Skerritt. We need smart people, not fools, to develop our beautiful nature island. Thank you, Dr. Fontaine, for the good work that you do. So, Dr. Fontaine, I don't think that will be our last program for the year because we go in full shuttle and we may just take a break maybe in the last week. And Christmas is on Thursday. Yes, is that correct? Thursday?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is, believe it
So,
or not.
believe it or not, the time is rolling and it's
Yes,
rolling
yes,
very
yes.
fast.
It's on
And so we
Thursday.
wish all and sundry a happy Christmas and the best for the new year. In Spanish, they would say Feliz Navidad, Prospero Año Felicidad, Merry Christmas, and we wish you all the best for the new year. And so, Doc, I know your closing remarks. You would like to give some information with regards to persons, financing or lending support to our party, because we have been doing some good work for the people, as they say, and we can only, from our end, get the information right and disseminate it. But also to do this, we require the support of the public, whether you live in Dominica or whether you live outside of Dominica. And we hope that people can actually continue to support us. For those who have done that for this year and the years past, we thank you for your kind generosity. And we expect that you continue to support us generously because it's hard work. And so we expect that you do what you do, continue to do. And we ask God's blessings upon your work and to ask God to fulfill, more to your bank accounts, more, revenue, more value to your work. And so we thank you again for all what you have done for the past year, the support that you have given us, support our raffle, you support the court cases. You have just been with us, and we just ask you to continue to support because we need funds to have this movement stronger and to be moving. And Doc, I know you're highlighting exactly the number, but it actually disappears from the screen very quickly. So we can
Yeah,
move.
yeah. It's disappearing. It's like some
Yeah.
hand doesn't want
And,
it to be.
and I don't want to rush it. So I'll write it
Yeah,
next.
so I'm just
Yes,
trying to,
Mo
yeah.
banking ID
Oh, okay. I
555.
think, yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes. So, Doc, let me just say Merry Christmas to you as well and to your family. I wish you all the best for the Christmas season and that for the new year, many good things to come. And so, as you wind down this program, I would like your parting words to the Dominican people.
Well, certainly, so in ending, I would just like to appeal to our patrons, or the persons that have been so kind to us, and just to ask that that they show some support. As you know, we have a lot of work to do, following our actions there in getting in getting this new election going and so on. We have a lot of work to do. We are on the ground now, doing what needs to be done, and so we just want to appeal to the Dominican public to assist us. In a while, we are going to put up the information right there on the board, uh, that will allow persons to be able to help us, and it's right there. We have both the mobile banking information as well as the online information that appears here on the screen, and we are basically appealing for the support of the general public. Every night, every Monday night, we have several persons who tune into us, and a lot of the work that needs to be done requires, as you'd well expect, requires funding, projects that we want to do on the ground, just the outreach that we need to perform to win hearts and minds. We need your support. So whatever it is that you can contribute, we'd encourage you to do so. For persons who can contribute $10 a month or $5 a month, you can do it online, where you're able to set up the monthly recurring balances. You can set it up once and don't even think about it. So if it's $5, you can do every month. For $10, you can do every month. Go online, do that. The information is there on the screen. It's at uwp-dominica.com. You click on donation, and you'll be able to set up these recurring payments on a monthly basis. Like I said, $20 is the cost of 2 coffees, so you can, I guess, sacrifice 2 coffees if you're in the United States.
Yes.
Sacrifice 2 coffees to allow us to be able to bring a change. Because as you see, this government is not working for the people of Dominica. It is clear. And we need to be able to continue to convince the Dominican public. There are still people, interestingly enough, and I'll end on this. So deceptive is this Prime Minister that I gave someone a lift on Saturday, and the person says, oh boy, our Prime Minister is really good. Imagine, he spoke to the
US.
Americans, the US, and they immediately decided to allow persons with visas to go into the US. I had to patiently explain to him that that's not the case, that the Prime
Yes.
Minister has nothing to do with it. In
Great.
fact, if he goes back to the hot seat on Wednesday morning with Matt, I told Matt exactly that. I described that to Matt, on the hot seat, and it is there, so, but people believe that. So instead of seeing the Prime Minister as the villain, instead of seeing him as the one who put us in this mess, they're now praising him as the one who is getting us out of this mess. I mean, see,
Yeah,
man,
that's
I
from the
mean,
truth.
talk about political somersaults. I mean, how do you do that? How do you move from being the one responsible to now appearing to be the one to be the hero? It's like
Imagine,
somebody, killing somebody, and then they appear to be the one that will try to save the person in the first place. I mean,
imagine that.
how do you even, get that done? So it shows we have a lot of work to do to educate the public. We are doing different means. The most effective means, that you will agree, is to be out there in the constituencies. You can help us do that. You can help us be out there doing the work. We are prepared to do the hard work, but we need your help. You feel a part of this movement. Then that's what I'm saying. I want the people who are looking at others who continue to support the United Workers Party to feel to be a part of this movement, and to support us financially, so that we can get the work done in Dominica and remove this government. Because ultimately, this government is not working for the people of Dominica, and we need to get them out of office.
Well, yes, and I really want to thank you again. And we know that this Prime Minister mouth and tongue is far from the truth. He will play political semantics that cannot help him. It would be impossible for the US government to put out a statement on Tuesday and by Thursday for it to change. So we know that that is not true. He pretended not to have read properly and misunderstood the proclamation and tried to play, political acrobatic with, but he's only tumbling backwards all the time. But as we end this program, it will be good to say it like this. Looks like we have a corrupt government in Dominica. It's time for new leadership, for moral leadership, and a new beginning for Dominica. Be strong, Thompson. May the Lord be with you as you help craft this new future. God bless. And somebody was just suggesting there that US $20 a month for the US diaspora, $10 as a month for locals. So I mean that's a nice suggestion, and just get moving. So that's good. Thank you, Texter, for this. I mean US $20 per diaspora would be nice, but we call for conservative $10. But if you can augment it and double it, that'd be nice. But we like the suggestion of US $20 for diaspora to contribute and $10 for locals. Let me say to all those who have been contributing to our programs, to ask God to bless your finances. We want to say to you, Merry Christmas to you and your families. Be good. Enjoy yourself. Until next time, we say good night. And Doc, thank you for the good work that you do. So Dominicans, so long, so long. Hasta luego. Until sometime, bye-bye.
Night. Night indeed.